Someone once said that sometimes to keep our loved ones close, we have to let go of some of our rights because relationships are not about profit and loss. Today, I am going to share a story with you that seems simple on the surface but carries a powerful message. This is the story of an Indian man named Vinod, his wife, and their 4-year-old son. They were traveling by car to another city to attend a relative's daughter's birthday. They had bought a special gift with love and were taking it with them. As they drove along the highway, their car crossed a bridge over a river. Everything was calm, but suddenly, their little son, Girlâ, shouted excitedly, "Papa, watermelon!" Vinod, surprised, asked, "Where is the watermelon?" Their eyes fell on a young girl standing by the roadside, selling watermelons. Her face glistened with sweat under the scorching sun, yet she wore a gentle smile. Vinod pulled the car over, and his wife rolled down the window to ask, "Dear, how much for one watermelon?" The girl replied softly, 50 rupees, madam." Vinod's wife gave a slight smile and said, "Give it to us for 40, not asking for much." The girl's eyes showed hesitation, but she politely responded, "Madam, I can't sell it for less than 50 rupees." After some back and forth, the girl finally gave in and handed over a fresh watermelon to the car. Girlâ jumped with joy and peeked out of the window, exclaiming, "Sister, my name is Girlâ." The girl chuckled at his innocence. "Oh, you really are round and chubby, just like your name." Vinod's wife smiled and tried again. "Dear, can't you give it for 40 rupees for my son's sake?" The girl sighed and said, "All right, only for your son." She gently handed the watermelon to Girlâ, but he was too little to hold it properly. The watermelon slipped from his tiny hands, crashing to the ground and splitting into pieces. For a moment there was complete silence. Tears welled up in Girlâ's eyes as he cried out, "My watermelon! My watermelon!" The girl immediately comforted him. "Oh, don't cry, my little brother. I'll get you another one." She ran back and fetched another watermelon. Vinod's wife, however, said coldly, "We won't pay for the one that fell." The girl softly replied, "Madam, I gave it to Girlâ because I saw him as my brother. I thought he could hold it, just like my little brother used to." Vinod's wife looked at her in surprise and asked, "Your brother? Where is he?" Suddenly, the girl's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "He was only 2 years old. We had just celebrated his birthday a few days ago, but he fell sick and passed away." A heavy silence filled the air. Vinod and his wife felt their hearts ache at the pain in the girl's voice. She had lost her brother, yet she was here, still smiling and helping others. The girl handed Girlâ the second watermelon and said warmly, "Please take care of it this time. I don't need any money for it. You called him your brother, and my mother always told me that in relationships we shouldn't count profit or loss." Vinod and his wife exchanged guilty glances. Just moments ago they had been haggling over 10 rupees, but this girl was teaching them the true meaning of relationships. Her words left them speechless. Vinod's wife hesitated for a moment, then slowly opened her purse. She took out a small ring, a gift they had bought for their relative's daughter. Placing it in the girl's palm, she said softly, "This is for you, a gift from a mother to her daughter." The girl hesitated. "Madam, what will I do with this?" Vinod's wife smiled and said, "You called Girlâ your brother, so this is a gift from me, just as a mother gives to her child." Vinod's eyes glistened with emotion. Suddenly, he took out his phone and dialed his elder brother's number. "Brother, you can keep the big shop in the market. I'll take the smaller one." Silence followed. Then a shocked voice came from the other end. "What are you saying? Weren't we fighting in court over this property?" Vinod took a deep breath and said, "Yes, brother, but now I understand. In relationships, we shouldn't look at profit and loss." Hearing this, Vinod's wife nodded in agreement. Just moments ago, she had been stubborn over a minor price difference, but now, this young girl's pain had changed her perspective. Sometimes, small incidents teach us the biggest lessons in life, and today, that's exactly what had happened to Vinod and his wife. As Vinod ended the call with his brother, a strange sense of relief washed over him. He looked at his wife, who was still staring at the girl with tear-filled eyes. The realization had struck them hard. Sometimes, in the pursuit of material things, they had forgotten what truly mattered. The girl, despite her struggles, had given them a priceless lesson in love and selflessness. Girlâ, unaware of the depth of the situation, happily clutched his watermelon, his laughter breaking the silence. But for Vinod and his wife, that moment had become a turning point, one they would never forget. The girl noticed their silence and smiled faintly. "Madam, sir, thank you for the ring, but your kindness is enough for me." She turned to leave, but Vinod's wife suddenly grabbed her hand gently. "Wait," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. She opened her purse again and took out a few crisp notes, placing them in the girl's hand. "This isn't for the watermelon. This is for you, to help in whatever way you need." The girl looked down at the money, then back at Vinod's wife, her eyes widening with disbelief. "No, madam, I can't take this," she whispered. "My mother always said that we should earn what we get, not take handouts." Vinod's wife knelt down slightly to meet the girl's gaze. "This isn't charity, dear. This is a gift from one mother to another's daughter. Just like you gave my son a second watermelon, I want to give you something too." The girl hesitated for a moment before slowly closing her fingers around the money. Tears welled up in her eyes as she gave a small nod. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice barely audible. As Vinod started the car again, his mind replayed everything that had happened. He couldn't shake off the girl's words. The weight of his past decisions suddenly felt heavier. He had spent years fighting over a piece of land, letting greed overpower love. But today, a simple roadside encounter had shattered that greed. His grip on the steering wheel tightened as he resolved to be a better man, a better brother. Sometimes, children teach us lessons we never learn as adults. He thought to himself, glancing at Girlâ, who was humming a tune happily. The car moved forward, but their hearts remained behind, tied to that little girl's story. Vinod's wife turned to look out of the window one last time. The girl was still standing there, watching their car disappear into the distance. But there was something different about her now. Her smile was wider, her eyes brighter, as if she too had found something valuable in this exchange. Perhaps for the first time in a long time, she felt seen, understood, and cared for. It was a small act, but sometimes small acts of kindness leave the biggest impact. A few hours later, as they reached their destination, Vinod parked the car and exhaled deeply. His wife sat in silence, lost in thought. Finally, she spoke. "Vinod, we were so caught up in fighting for what we thought we deserved that we forgot what we already had." Her words struck a chord in Vinod's heart. He nodded solemnly. "Yes, and today that little girl reminded us of it." He took her hand in his, a silent promise passing between them. They wouldn't let greed or pride dictate their lives anymore. As they entered the birthday party, the cheerful chatter and music filled the air. But something had changed within them. They handed over the remaining gift, but their minds were still occupied by the girl, her story, and the lesson she had unknowingly given them. The night passed in celebrations, but deep inside, Vinod knew he had to do more. He had to act on this realization, and he knew exactly what he needed to do. The next morning, before leaving for home, Vinod made a quick detour. His wife looked at him curiously but didn't question him. When they reached the roadside, where they had met the girl, Vinod stepped out of the car and looked around. She wasn't there. He approached an elderly fruit seller nearby. "The little girl who sells watermelons here, do you know where she is?" The old man wiped his hands on his apron and nodded. "She lives nearby. Her mother works in the fields." Vinod felt a pang in his heart. He had assumed the girl had a family supporting her, but the reality was much harsher. He thanked the old man and turned back to the car, determination shining in his eyes. His wife watched him silently, understanding what he was thinking. "We should help her," she said softly. Vinod nodded. "Not just her, but as many children like her as we can." He started the car, feeling a new sense of purpose. This wasn't just about one encounter. It was about changing the way they lived, the way they saw the world. Back home, Vinod made a decision that stunned everyone. He dropped the court case against his brother, choosing peace over property. His brother, moved by this change, embraced him, years of bitterness dissolving in that single moment. But Vinod didn't stop there. He and his wife started a small initiative to help underprivileged children, ensuring that no child had to struggle the way that little girl did. It wasn't about money or charity. It was about humanity, about relationships built on love and understanding. As months passed, Vinod often found himself thinking about the girl. He hoped she was doing well, that she was safe and happy. One day, as he was visiting a local market, he saw a familiar face. The girl. She was helping an older woman, likely her mother, carry a basket of fruit. When she noticed him, she smiled, a genuine, grateful smile. Vinod's heart swelled with warmth. He didn't need words. That smile was enough to know that kindness had made a difference, even if it was just a small one. Because sometimes the smallest moments change the biggest parts of our lives. And sometimes a simple watermelon can teach us the true meaning of love, sacrifice, and what it really means to be family.